Without warning, any one of us could find ourselves in a life or death emergency, wondering if help will ever arrive. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of people in unexpected danger and the men and women who try to come to their aid on Rescue 911. We begin on April 26, 1990, on a small farm outside Osage City, Kansas. As usual, Cindy Moulin was at home looking after her own children and her sister Kathy's.
It was about 4:40 in the afternoon, and my daughters were in the house with me, and Kathy's boys. I babysit for them, and I was expecting Kathy any time. My older son, Jacob, was outside doing chores. My sister works in Topeka, and I usually expect her around 4:40 in the afternoon. I'd been thinking about Kathy that afternoon, and I looked at her boys. They were in front of the TV, and thought about them, and I wondered what would happen if something happened to Kathy.
Traveling the same route as Kathy that day was her cousin Linda.
I had just gotten groceries and was headed out of town to tutor a high school girl that I meet with after school about 5 o'clock every day. And I had just left the city limits. I noticed that there was a vehicle in front of me, quite a ways in front of me, nothing out of the ordinary.
When Kathy pulled up in front of her sister's house, she was forced to wait for an opening in the oncoming traffic to turn left into the driveway.
There was a blind spot in the road there where you cannot see the car in front of you. On the shoulder of the road, I noticed a couple of geese. My main concern was that they're going to cross in front of me and cause me to wreck.
At first I thought the livestock had knocked over one of their feeders. They were metal feeders.
I looked up in the sky and I saw smoke just rolling through the air all over. And I go, that's a car fire, and I started screaming, Mom.
The other person in the car was my main concern, and to get back there to make sure they were okay. The front doors were jammed on my car, so I crawled out the back door. When I got to the car, I then noticed that it was Kathy, and this was my relation in there.
Let me out of here! Help!
And she's screaming that the doors were jammed and that she couldn't get out.
When we continue.
In my heart, I believed she was going to die, and I said, God, take her before she burns.
"29-year-old Kathy Watson was trapped inside the burning wreckage of her car on the highway in front of her sister Cindy's house.
When I heard my son yelling, there's a car on fire out in front of the house. Still, I didn't connect it. And then when I got up to look, it was almost like I didn't want to look, but I had to. And saw my sister's car was in flames.
Oh, my God.
I just thought, why is this happening? Why is Kathy's car on fire? I just couldn't understand. When I saw Linda there, and it looked like she couldn't get to her, that things were pretty hopeless. In my heart, I believed she was going to die, and I was going to be there to watch it. And I said, God, take her before she burns.
Go.
Cindy's call for help came into the Osage City Police and Fire Department.
Osage City Fire and Police?
Get the fire department. That was my only hope. They'll come and they'll put this fire out and it'll be all right.
Okay, thank you.
The volunteer fire department immediately responded. An advanced life support unit was also dispatched, but it would take several minutes for any rescue workers to get to the scene. Charlie Heberlin was on his way to visit friends.
Well, I was just coming up the road, and I just happened to be the first one who got up on it. I thought the thing was going to blow up any time. I expected to get blowed right off there.
National Guard Sergeant Roger Mersman was heading home with his family.
I knew that car was going to explode, and my first thought was of my wife and my children. And I didn't like the idea of being a dead hero. As I was approaching the car, the heat was just incredible. I assumed that just instinct took over, just raw animal instinct. As long as she was still alive, I had to do something. I couldn't just stand by and watch it happen. We got maybe 15, 20 feet away from the car, and the flames were coming out of the hole that she had just crawled through. And the rest of the car burned within just a matter of seconds after that.
I still was terrified that she was badly burnt, or I just couldn't believe that she'd gotten out of it. Got over to her, and I grabbed onto her, and I started to cry, and I was holding her. I just kept saying, I thought you were going to die. I thought you were going to die. I think about what I would have had to do if Kathy had not gotten out. And I think about how I would have had to come back to this house and tell those little boys that their mother had died. It was very hard.
Anytime you got somebody that's trapped in a fire, there's a lot of concerns. Your biggest concern is inhalation of the superheated smoke and fumes, because they actually drown in their own mucus inside their lungs if they're burnt too bad.
Although emergency workers arrived within 5 minutes, it would have been too late to save Kathy.
Fuel from the gas tank was leaking out of the gas tank, and it was fueling the fire. And that's why, if Roger and Charlie weren't on the scene practically immediately, that she would have perished.
One person didn't do it. Two people didn't do it. It was 4 people working together. When you read about something like this in the paper, see it on the news, you ask yourself, would I do that? And I learned that I would.
29-year-old Kathy Watson suffered from burns and smoke inhalation and bruised her hand pounding on the windshield. But she escaped with her life. Kathy is grateful to all the people who stopped that day to help rescue her.
Some really wonderful people. They're 1 in a million. And they deserve so much for risking their lives.
It changed Kathy, and it did change me. We're just a lot more aware of how precious life is, how quickly it can be gone. So you look around and you see things that you once took for granted are much more important.
Next.
911, what's the emergency? I have somebody in my apartment, and he's threatening. He's got a knife in his hand, a butcher knife, and he's threatening to cut me. Is he inside or? Yes, he's inside.